The Arcadia Chess Club. This is Bill Richards, National Chess Master. Even though my rating doesn't say it right there, I'll explain that in a moment. I go by the handle Rats across the internet in chess circles. Basically, I earned my master title back about 1981, and I was close to having a life master title. That's where you play 300 games, where you start and finish the event at 2200, and I had to stop playing over-the-board chess back in 1996 because of life circumstances, where I lived and how much I had to work and where I lived. I was far removed from a lot of chess activity as far as tournaments go, but I was able to keep up with the game on the internet and through correspondence chess with organizations such as ICCF. Anyway, I just a few games away from that title. Once I get it back, that 2200 rating back, I will certainly get it soon enough. But anyway, chess.com recognizes me as an NM, so take it what you want. Anyway, I've been making videos on chess for over a year now, and this is a new feature here for the Arcadia Club, where everyone's going to be able to submit at least one game of theirs played at Arcadia, and it'll behoove the members, if they want to improve their game, to have a look at what I have to say. In effect, you get a free chess lesson. I do give chess lessons, but that's another story. This is a chance to get some insight into your game. And let's see, I do, for the Internet Chess Club, I do game videos for their Game of the Week in the Team 45-45 League, and I've been doing that for over a year. And I've got 147 of those videos up and counting. But anyway, let's talk about this game. I picked this game. This was played in the last round of the club championship. I just picked this game. I've already submitted another one, and they like what they see and want more, so I'll continue this with my own game. Going in the last round, Mr. Yang had 4.5 out of 5 points, and there were I think 6 of us that had 4 and 1, and I got to play him. I'm on board 1. Now, basically, if I want to win this event, or at least tie for it, I have to win with the black pieces. So I'm pretty much forced to play for a win. And if he wants to win clear first, well, he's got to beat me too, because if he loses, then he's going to fall out of first entirely. Because I'll go ahead of him, and then there's a whole flock of players with 4 and 1 scores that are trying to get 5 also. And if he gets a draw, then he's no worse than a tie for first. So, but still, it's a good position to be in when you have the half-point advantage and the white pieces. And let's have a look at the game, and we'll get an idea what I can offer. And he opened with the English. Now, I already had just observed casually some of his games, and I noticed that he played the Botvinnik system of the English, and if you don't know what that is, I'll explain it here in just a moment. So I was quite willing to allow this opening, and essentially here it comes right here. Let me just back up a moment. I knew e4 was coming, but I'll back up in a moment. The next step is white will develop this knight to e2, and because of the pawn structure in the center, the white pawn structure, this is called the Botvinnik system. I think it was first played by Botvinnik against Boris Spassky in an English game, English opening. I think Spassky had played e5 on move 1 against c4, and Botvinnik got a great game. Anyway, the funny thing is I've been studying this particular opening for years, and I used it in international correspondence chess as well as other domestic chess. I was able to play a lot of strong masters with it, so it's not a secret to me how to play this opening as white and as black. I'm very well experienced with it, and then on the Internet Chess Club over the last decade, I played. I'm not a good blitz player, but I played countless blitz games employing this system. So I'm pretty familiar with all the concepts of it. Now, one of the drawbacks with it, it can be hard to play for a win. The game can get very even, but you never know. And but at least since I was familiar with the opening, I knew I shouldn't have any trouble at least equalizing the position, and then see what happens after that. A lot of times, what can happen in this opening with white, if black misplays it, white can get this pawn roller going, and even advance that pawn right down to the 6th rank some cases and bury this bishop back on h8. I've done this, and all those concepts are pretty much beyond the scope of this video, but it's a very interesting system. And one of the themes that black will use in this system is this square here, D4, and the purpose of E6 is to try to get a knight into D4 and backed up by another knight. You don't if you go to F6, you can still do this. So the reason for with the knight, the reason for playing E6 is to develop this knight to E7 to get the shortest path to C6. Black would like to follow up with knight C6 and knight EC7, and then D4 is Black's territory. This bishop is controlling it, and one knight's occupying it, another one's backing it up, and Black hopes to generate some kind of pressure with that position. Now, if Black develops this knight to F6 instead, let me just show you. Whoop. Get this right. Okay. If Black develops this knight to F6 instead, as I was saying, it can still back things up to back the D4 square up. Black will castle kingside, and then the knight will go to E8, and then from E8 to C7, and then eventually to get this right, over to E6, then it's backing up D4. And that's a theme that White even uses with colors reversed in this opening, because this type of Botvinnik system is often one of the main defenses to the English opening, and Black will play it a half tempo down. So I sought the quickest route line, and that's what I played. Okay, so now I continue with my plan, and he continues here, and we both castle. And now stage one is achieved. I've occupied the knight on D4, and I'm ready to back it up with the other knight. Now, there's a lot of book variations here, and going into all of them would be beyond the scope of this video. Suffice it to say, I believe he played the best move. He stopped my plan of backing up the knight. He made the exchange, and it's got some advantages and disadvantages. Now, it's better to take with the pawn than the bishop, even though it shuts off the bishop's diagonal. And one of the reasons here I'll show you is because see, Black is set up to keep White out of D5, and now Black will be able to eventually play an E5 move, and with that pawn on D4, it's not going to be easy, if possible, for White to get his knight into D5. Okay, so this knight needs to move. Pick a square. You can go to you can go to B5, A4, B1, or E2. You got to go to one of those. Obviously, he chose the best one, the most natural one, knight to E2. But he's not coming back to C6, and he's not getting to E3 as long as this pawn is wedged in on D4, meaning this knight is not getting into D5, and I can later play E5, okay? It could get to D5 by way of F4, but I can keep him out of there easily enough. And anyway, let's just continue with the game, and we'll get into commentary, because this is an extremely interesting game. And he played B4, and now this is the point where I didn't make the most accurate move here. Okay, I thought about playing A5, and there's nothing wrong with A5. He's going to play B5. You know, a lot of things I talk about in my videos, you don't always have to play the best move. But sometimes when you play a move that's not close to the best, even though it's not a bad move, it can make your winning chances all that much more difficult, simply because you didn't activate your game in ways you could have activated it in. And even though it's hard to see how either side can get extremely active here, there is a logical plan. And so I rejected A5 for one main reason. Is what I preach in all my videos, which cater to all rating levels, is the most important thing to do in the opening is to develop. Okay, there's no need for me to play a move like A5 when I can just simply develop a piece. And so I just didn't. chess is something you've got to, if you're going to play at a high level, and this is a high level. Mr. Yang's a very, very strong player. You've got to be accurate as often as possible because the small little ones just take away chances. The best move for black to play, what do you think black's best move is here? You can pause the video and just ask yourself, consider a couple of candidate moves, and then I'll explain it when you come back. Okay, you resume the video. The move, I think the best move, and I didn't play it, the best move is to play e5. That just keeps his knight out of f4. As I said earlier, he's not getting a knight into d5. And the reason will become evident in just a moment, and I'll explain it when we get there. Okay, but again, when I looked at this and assessed what to do, I said, well, if I don't want to play a5, what do I want to do? I want to develop. Okay, so what I did was I stopped and developed a piece. And again, it's not a bad move at all. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just probably not the best move. And we'll see if that makes a difference here in a few moves or not. We'll discuss that. Okay, so he continues with his queenside expansion. And, he's not getting ready for the thematic f4, f5 stuff I mentioned. But I'm well covered against that. So I'm not too unhappy with my position here. I've certainly equalized the game, and I just developed a piece again. I just followed the rule of development. Now, here, let me just back up, and I'll show you a couple things here. Right here in this position, it's one way to measure a position and evaluate a position is look at the development. Let's draw an imaginary. Well, let's just do it this way. Let's just draw this line. I'll make a box here. Okay. Sometimes you can really see a lot about a chess position just by looking at this way. We have this position is entirely symmetrical with one exception, and that's the king pawns. White has a pawn on e4, and black does not have a pawn on e5. And as I mentioned, I could have had that, okay, but I didn't. Now look at the queen side, and the queen side is almost entirely symmetrical. The difference being black has a pawn on d4 while white has a pawn on c4. That's basically the difference. So in this position, logically one could say white should probably develop a piece, but he didn't. Okay, and developing a piece is fine. b4 is fine. b4 may not be the most accurate move. That's not important. But one thing that white wasn't doing was developing his queen side. And so what I have now done is I've developed a little bit of my queen side. And then when he played a4, even though he's grabbing some space over there, white has not developed his queen side. And now suddenly, after queen c7, black is getting his queen side going. My rooks are connected. The white rooks aren't. It's safe to say that black is fully equalized in this position, and we'll leave it at that. But again, I have to play for a win here. An equal game does me no good. I mean, I don't mind a draw. A draw is not a bad result, but I certainly can't play for a draw. At some point, I have to I have to take advantage of whatever I can create out of the position. Anyway, let's have a look and see what he does. Okay, so now he develops his bishop, and now here I find the right move a few moves later, and we'll see why this is important as I mentioned shortly. And then he continues his development, and now I go for the thematic f5. It's the only pawn break I really have in the position because I have not opted for a5. I've never bothered to play that. And now he does a little pawn break. He pushes his pawn, and at this point there was let's see. I played bishop e6. And at this point there's a potential win of a pawn for black, or for white. He can take this pawn, opening up this bishop's diagonal, and then take this pawn, and my queen would be deflected from protection of this. But that kind of opens up the game for my pieces a little bit. I get some open lines. it was possible. I mentioned to him after, and he says, "No, I didn't like the open lines you got." And I don't blame him, but I'm trying to get something out of this position. I've just mentioned it. Let me just show it. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, takes. Let's see. I can take back with the knight. I can take back with the. Well, actually, I could take back with the knight here. Oh no, there's the tempo and the queen. Okay. See, I miss one movers. Okay, so now attack on the queen, and now this bishop takes. Now there could be a knight here instead. That's just one possibility. But I've got some open lines for my pieces here, and there's even a potential pin against this pawn. The pressure's coming. See if I push a5, the pawn can't go. So white probably doesn't want to go into this line even a pawn ahead, simply because the black position is getting active. This bishop on f5 is attacking a weakness. I think it was a good choice by him not to go to win the pawn. Besides, he doesn't need to try all that hard for a win. I do, so he can just keep the position level. I don't know what his intention were. Naturally he wants to win, but he's also got to make sure he doesn't play something that loses. Okay, so anyway, bishop e6, let's get the position right. And he played a good move here. He played b5. And let's see, I get the right spot here in the PGN. Okay, so now I chose to capture on this square, and now he takes with the bishop, and now I move my queen out of the line of fire because he's threatening like a discovery. Bishop takes a7 on my queen. So here's the interesting point now about the fact that I didn't play e5 before developing my light squared bishop. Theoretically, I could have done that and had the queen go to d7. I could have, in effect, lost two tempos by going the way I did. So maybe my choice of bishop d7 wasn't right for this reason. But of course, white can play the game differently too. We don't know. White may play different moves if I play e5 instead of bishop d7. So we can't entirely answer that. But going into this line, I've lost two tempos. But at the same time, black is still slightly ahead in development. Okay, the black queen is developed, the white queen isn't, and that's one of the keys. And here he plays an aggressive move. He plays f4, and this here becomes the critical phase of the game. And for those that are aspiring to become a great player, how do we define great player? Well, above 2,000, I think that's a great player. Above 2,200, of course, that's greater. But if you're aspiring to be good, I think if you understand the logic for how I continued this, you're on your way to becoming a good player. Okay, so you don't have to see it; you just have to understand what I'm doing here, and the game basically is entirely level. So I'm going to give you a quiz here. Now, it's not black to play and win by any means. That's not it. It's what I like to say is black to play and do the best he can. And in other words, for instance, if you see a tactic in a book, it'll say white to move and win. Well, you already know white's going to win, so now you got to find the win. Or if the theme is like, say, pinning or double attack, then you know what to look for. Well, when you're actually playing a game, there's nothing there announcing that white wins in 3 moves by forced mate. You have to find it. You don't know it's a forced mate. You don't know it's a pin. You don't know it's a double attack until you actually find it. So it's good to pose questions, white or black to play and do the best he can. But I will say, I don't want you looking for a win that's not there, because there's no win. This position is essentially even, and I believe what I did was fine. Whether it's the best move is open to debate. Okay, and we'll discuss that a little bit. But let's just talk before I show what I'm doing. Let's just talk a little bit about this position. In effect, let me talk about these 4 pawns here. There's a lot of tension there. Okay, there's all kinds of captures and possible recaptures that one would have to think of. Let me get rid of those. Okay, neither side should be the one that wants to make a capture. Okay, why? Okay, if white takes on e5 at some point, this further develops, improves the position of the black bishop on g7. And if white takes on f5, this can further develop and improve the position of the black knight. Okay, yeah, you see there's a pin there, but I'm trying to make a point here, and you'll see in a moment. Okay, and conversely, the same thing holds true from the other side of the board. Black probably doesn't want to take on e4 because that improves the position of this light squared bishop. And conversely, black doesn't want to take on f4 because that improves the position of this knight. There's an old rule of Aaron Nimzowitsch, the author of My System: do not make exchanges that develop your opponent's pieces. Make exchanges that develop yours. So recaptures. Another simple rule is pieces, not pawns. Make piece moves, not pawn moves. So if I can force him to make a capture, or invite him to make a capture, then that's going to improve the position of my pieces, because he's not going to do it willingly. He knows better. Okay, I'm not going to take there because I know better. Okay, so now I'm going to ask the question one more time. I'm going to say black to play and do the best he can. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, you've resumed the video. If you pick the move a6, you get a gold star. Okay, that's the move that was the main alternative. Okay, nothing wrong with a6. It puts some pressure on b5. Black's hoping to make an exchange and open up that a file for his use. And if white takes on a6, black can retake with the rook, and there's further pressure on a4. And a6 may be the best move. Maybe it was the move to try to play for the win. I found a more forcing way to try for the win, and it's very subtle. It's very deep. And if you could have found what I found, then, like I say, you're on your way to becoming a very strong player. Let me show you what I did, and it's b6. Okay. Now this puts the question to his bishop. See, it would be nice. Let me just back up. It's one thing I didn't say. It'd be nice to play maybe a move like rook c8, but it's going to hang this pawn, and I can't trap his bishop or get sufficient counterplay over there. So this is kind of how I found this move through a series of elimination. Excuse me. Okay. So, but b6 requires a potential sacrifice of material, but at the same time, for white to take that material, he's going to have to help me develop my pieces better. So in other words, I do this, I get some positional compensation. And here's how it continues. He has two ways to do this. He can go back to this theme I mentioned earlier, taking on e7 to get rid of the threat on his bishop. He didn't play this, but let's just look at it. Okay, so I have to, when I'm thinking this move, I have to analyze this. Now he takes on the square, and then he picks up material. But for what it's worth, I have two bishops, and he has none. Now I'm down the exchange, but I have two bishops, and they can provide a lot of nuisance value. And one way to say, when you're looking at a potential sacrifice, if you have positional compensation and you don't see a way for your opponent to get a clearly winning position on you, go ahead and make the sacrifice and give it a try. So from this position, I don't see a clear win for white. Now, if white trades queens, trades a rook, and gets rid of one of the knights for a bishop, or gets rid of one of the bishops for his knight, he's going to win the ending according to theory, most likely. But it's a long way from an ending. And if I get my bishops into play here, I have some strong winning chances, and he's going to have a lot. Those bishops will offer a lot of tactical possibilities. So I was willing to play this and rely on my own creativity of finding things when I have an active game. I was willing to go into this line because, like I say, I have to try for a win. Okay, so he didn't choose this line. Let's see what he did do. But I have to be prepared for that. And I couldn't find a way for White to win that. I knew it'd be an interesting game. So he did it the other way. He took on this square. Now I take back with the knight. And here's what's I think's fun about this position. He now has his choice, if he wants to win the exchange, of which one he wants. He can take with his light squared bishop, or he can take with his dark squared bishop. And in either case, whichever one he takes, my rook will recapture, eliminating the threat on the other one. I can afford to give up one exchange, probably not two. And at the same time, this knight of mine on f5 is suddenly active. It was exchanged off on the other line, but now it's active, and it's wanting to hop into e3 and, if anything, regain some material. Okay, so let's see what he does. Okay, he chose to take this rook, and now there's some interesting choices here. One move that almost works is knight e3. This is a mistake. What's neat about this move is that it puts pressure on his queen. His queen can't come out on the diagonal. That means it would have to go to a square that my knight can then attack it. The point is, if it goes to d2, I can take on f1, tempoing the queen. And if it goes to e1, I can take on g2, with further tempo on the queen. But there's a fly in the ointment here. We often look at these things and say, "Oh my God, my queen's attacked. I have to move it." Well, White doesn't have to move it at all. He can give it up. It's just simply take another rook. And now I've kind of got egg on my face. I'm down in this position. I'm down two rooks. Okay, yeah, I can take his queen, but what else can I do? If I take his queen, he's just, he basically just got too much wood for the queen. He'll stop and trade a bishop. Now, well, what am I going to do next? Black's just going to be in trouble here. This knight's loose. White has way too much material for the queen here. I can't give it up. So it's interesting. We've got to think of all these possible tactics when we go into these lines. But instead, I just retake with the rook on f8 and avoid all this mess and preserve the threat of putting a knight in on e3. So this was some of the compensation that I saw. So he decides to chase my queen out of that square and occupy a good square with his bishop. And now he takes here. And the way he's playing it, he's able to start getting some pieces off the board. In other words, I was saying for White to win this, clearly he's got to win it in the ending, because I have just as many pieces on the board as he does, even though its material count is down. Let's count them up. I'll show you. Black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. So does White. We both have the same number of pieces. This way, if you have to give up material sometimes, it's better to give up an exchange than to give up a piece for a pawn. Because when you give up a piece for a pawn, as opposed to giving up the exchange, even though the point count is 2, when you're giving up that piece, you have one less piece to meet threats. Here I have just as many pieces as he does. It's just that one of them isn't as powerful as one of his. Okay, but with an equal number of pieces, I've got all kinds of opportunities here. But the way he's playing it, he's getting rid of pieces. So I stop and drop my knight in on e3, which is a great square for the knight. It gives Black a lot of compensation for the exchange that he's given up, but allows White to trade off a rook. And I take back here. And now the queen still has the same dilemma where to go. It's only got 2 vacant squares. He picks this one, and now I stop and regain the pawn. And now we reach the critical stage of the game. And I'll explain my logic for what I did here. I saw what the best continuation was. I certainly analyzed it, and there's a number of ways to play it from here. but I'll explain why I picked the move I did. I basically made a blunder here. I picked the wrong move. But I'm going to show you what the correct move is, and then it gets interesting. The correct move is just take this knight. Now I don't have the bishop pair as opposed to the other line, but I've got a knight. Now I probably don't want to take this pawn. It's weak. It's not going anywhere. I can make moves like Queen A3, and this is pressuring A4 and D3. I don't necessarily want to win this pawn on A4. He may be able to answer that with Rook A1 and then activate the Rook down to the 7th rank. But another interesting candidate move in this position is to play Bishop F5. Either one pressures the D3 pawn, which is a weakness in the white camp. Now, white has resources against these moves, but white's going to have to play chess here and prove that he can force the queens off, trade the bishops, and then win with the rook versus the knight, and that he can stop any of my counterplay. So black has close to equality here, not full, but close to. If I play Queen A3, it becomes a fight, and that's what I wanted. I've got a strategic imbalance in the position with winning chances, and that's all I can ask for. Okay. The reason I don't necessarily want to take this pawn here is that this move seems to force the queens off. Where do I put my queen? I've got to watch out for his queen getting active on me. If it gets down to B8 with check, my queenside pawns can fall, and his advancing the pawns early on the queenside will pay off. His pawns are ready to run, and if I trade the queen. Black has virtually lost his winning chances and is now fighting to draw. Okay, and as I said earlier, a draw doesn't do me any good, so I don't want to go into a line that just, even if I get a draw, I don't want to draw. Okay, I can't afford to draw if I'm playing for the win, and if it's different circumstances, yeah, I might go for the draw, but in this case, I have to play for the win, so that has an effect on what I'm doing. But my logic, just earlier, like when I played Bishop D7, I said, well, what do I do here? I say I develop a piece. Okay, so the move I played isn't. Oh, we got a knight on the board still. Let's go back one more move. Okay, so what I did was I followed the logic of the way I teach. When you don't know what else to do, develop something. Well, if everything's developed, but I just wanted to improve the position of my pieces. So I selected Bishop B3. This gets the bishop out of danger. It was under attack. I'm not actually trying to attack this pawn on A4. As I mentioned earlier, white can let me have it and activate his rook, chase the bishop out and activate his rook. I'm more thinking of somewhere down the line of getting this bishop into C2 and pressuring D3 from behind. That's kind of like the logic. And the other logic is, since I'm behind in material, I don't want to trade pieces. I want to keep my pieces. So Bishop B3, as I see it, was selected because of the idea that it kept more pieces on the board and therefore offered me more winning chances. Unfortunately, there's a tactical shot here, and in a way, I'm kind of glad that I did play this, because the interesting continuation that comes up, there's something just so close to working. It's so beautiful, but we'll see it in a minute. Just didn't quite work. But I completely overlooked a simple one mover. It looks like the D5 square is covered. I'm defending it twice, and he's attacking it twice. But because of this pin on the E file, which I forgot about, he's able to play this Bishop D5 check. It's a great move on his part. Okay. So, ouch. What do I do? I'm going to give something back here, it seems like. So I found an interesting continuation. I'll just show it to you. And now I come down with my queen to F3. Now, it's an interesting double attack. I'm threatening a mate on G2 and his knight on D5. But unfortunately, it's easy to see that there's a defense here. and he stops and trades off the knight, gets rid of the threat on his and eliminates mine. But for what it's worth, I've got my pawn further advanced. Now it's a passed pawn. So it looks like black's getting somewhere. Okay, and it's so close, comes so close. Black comes so close here. It's interesting. Okay, he stops and gives the check, and I get out. And now comes Queen F1. And lo and behold, it looks like game over. Okay, if I can't trade queens, because if I trade queens, I'm going to lose this ending. It's just going to happen. Even with my advanced pass pawn, my bishop will be deactivated just trying to hold it. Here I'll just show you the basic winning theme. If I take this pawn's pretty much a goner. I can anchor, and I'm not even sure I can keep my bishop anchored in on c5 to hold this pawn. Eventually, he'll be able to get d4 in. Let's just talk about it a little bit. Okay, and activate where we're going to put my king. I think it'd behoove white to just go collect this pawn. Okay, where am I going to put it? Back here and keep his rook on the 7th rank. Come up here where I can't advance it. Unless I have to play g5, king g6, and then shove the pawn. Maybe that's the only idea. But I'm certainly not threatening to run this pawn up the board. And like I say, he'll just go about his business and start doing things of his own. Now, again, this pawn's not a threat, but here he can play d4 and undermine the protection. This is just hopeless for black. So certainly black can't trade queens. What do we have to do? Well, we have to keep our queen on the board. So let's see. Suppose we come back here. That's a nice square for the queen. We're keeping some pressure on the diagonal. Well, there's a major problem. White has a mate in 1. Okay, that's the major problem. So here I'm faced with trading queens into a lost ending or getting mated in 1. So what do? Pause the video. Black to play and try the best he can. Okay, you've resumed the video. Did you find this move? Whoops, not that move. See, one of the problems with this chess.com interface, when you play a side variation, it replaces it as the main line. Okay. Did you find this move? Okay. I don't know. Well, so the only other move that avoids mate in a queen trade, but well, gee, white just takes the queen. Now I'm down a rook and a bishop, and the threat is mate in 1 again. So what to do next? Well, I check him, and this is, like I say, this is so close yet so far. If queen f2, I promote to a queen, and he's going to lose. He's going to lose his queen. It's pinned. And so if you're sitting in this position as white, you could say, well, God, this is great. If I play king h1, he makes a queen with check. I got to start defending against the checks. So what I'll do, what white might say, is I'll just avoid this, and then when white promotes to a queen, or black promotes to a queen, I'll just go checkmate him. Well, there's a fly in the ointment. The fly in the ointment is this. Black makes a knight. And if this was forced, this would have been one for the anthologies. Unfortunately, it wasn't forced. Because look at this position. The rules say white would like to checkmate on black on f8, but the rules say you're in check, you got to get out. Well, where do you put the king? And that's the that's the fun part. The king cannot defend the queen. White must return the queen. Where's he going to put his king? H1, the idea to be able to secure this h2 pawn. Now, chances are the game is a draw. Chances are. Maybe black, if black gets lucky, he could try for win. White's got some extra pawns here. He's going to get another one. Again, the same dilemma as I said earlier. If you come out this way, this pawn will fall. So you're stuck doing this maneuver. But at least you got an extra piece this time. Okay, so maybe white can even try for a win still. But black shouldn't lose. But can black win? Who knows? But it would have been a great way to save the game if it had been forced. But unfortunately, it wasn't forced. So he found the correct move, and the correct move is simply let me queen. Now making a knight does no good, so I made the queen, and I could resign, but nobody ever won by resigning. Besides, I didn't waste his time. I moved kind of quick. I just played it out. But unfortunately, what's happened is I've run out of checks, and now it's his turn. And I've got this mate threat all over again. So doesn't matter what I do. White is clearly winning, and he just started checking me. And there's probably 20 different ways to win this thing from White's perspective. I just let him have some fun here. You know, it's his tournament. He's going to be the club champion. He deserves it. Let's let him have some fun here, right? Okay, so then at this point, if I back my king up, it's mate, and trading queens is going to do no good. He's just going to win. So I congratulate him on becoming club champion on a game well played, and that was it. But like I say, this is hopeless. Black's losing, no matter how you slice it. It just goes back to what we could have had if I had traded queens originally without giving up my my pawn on E3, right? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope there was some instructional value for you. One thing in closing, I'll say, I make all these videos for the Team 45-45 League, and not everybody watches and plays in the league. And one thing I see is a lot of people using the same opening that somebody else used and lost with. Okay. In other words, if they'd been watching my videos, they wouldn't be playing openings that lead them into trouble. And it's certainly a different way to prepare for a potential opponent. Everyone's who submits a game will have at least one game up. So you won't learn all their secrets, but you'll learn something about their style of play, and it could help you earn that point. And as I say, those that watch my videos can score some points, and those that don't can lose them. So don't be one that doesn't watch these things and lose a game because of it. That could be embarrassing. All right, these are a lot of fun. I enjoy making them. I pour my heart and soul out to them. I'm not 100% accurate with them, but I try my best. But the whole point is, even if I'm not accurate, I provoke thought. Now, one note, I do not use a computer to generate analysis. It is the worst possible thing you can do to help your development in chess. And unfortunately, a lot of chess players, they even grew up before the age of computers. Chess players, masters, and chess coaches, they always want to show you what the best move is. Like they're looking for perfection. Like if somehow there was a flaw in one of their analysis, the analysis they gave, someone's going to say, oh, look at that, Grandmaster Schützenfutzer missed this move. He's an idiot, you know, and like he can't, his ego says I can't produce an imperfect product. Well, bunk. You're teaching people to turn a computer on and find your moves for you. Worst possible thing you can teach, okay? Even though there's a right way to use them, shut them off. I became a master before a computer passed 1,500 in rating strength, okay? Period. I got along with them. You should get along without them too. All right. I thank everyone for their time, and I look forward to submissions, and there will be more games after you submit them. But you got to submit them, otherwise I won't know. All right. Take care.